You knock a glass and it tips, a clink, a splash across the cloth. The room freezes. An adult face hardens as if you've committed a crime. A sibling glances at you, then studies the wood grain as if it matters. The scolding is not about liquid. It is about you. In seconds, a spill becomes a verdict. Careless, too much, always a problem. You shrink, practicing invisibility, bargaining to be easier, smaller, safer. Anything but noticeable. What did you learn in that moment? That love arrived, with conditions, that safety was contingent, that your value was transactional, perform warmth, receive warmth, show need, lose it. Those aren't childish misunderstandings. They are rules etched into a nervous system still wiring itself, rules you never agreed to and still obey. If ordinary feedback feels like a sentence, if you apologize before speaking, if silence from loved ones drops your stomach, your body is remembering early lessons perfectly. You do not feel worthless by accident. Worthlessness was installed, not as one loud message, but as 1,000 tiny calibrations that trained you to police yourself before anyone else had to. A sigh, a look, a withheld smile, a comparison to the sibling who lived nearer to the weathers. Good side. The lesson arrived as atmosphere, and atmosphere persuades because it is everywhere. It turns children into forecasters, and verdicts into identities that follow you into adulthood like loyal shadows. Let's name the thesis clearly. This isn't generic low self-esteem, it's programmed self-erasure. You learned to sand down edges so nothing could catch, to volunteer blame before blame found you, to present a persona while real feelings waited in the hallway. If praise leaves you hollow, it's because praise was never the currency you sought. You longed for permission to exist without performing, to be held without a receipt, to know that presence itself was not a debt owed. Here is the path we will walk. First, we will expose where worthlessness originates inside narcissistic families, the roles, the triangulation, the way affection becomes a lever and silence becomes a leash. Next, we will trace how those dynamics don't just bruise thoughts, they wire bodies. Why a raised eyebrow spikes your pulse, why you rehearse conversations, why conflict feels like falling. Finally, we will map how to uninstall what never belonged to you without needing anyone's apology to begin. If part of you resists, that too is a survival masterpiece. The system trained you to believe that noticing harm invites more harm, that naming the pattern makes you disloyal. It whispered that you were dramatic, sensitive, ungrateful. It promised belonging for silence and threatened exile for truth. That was the contract you were offered, and children choose attachment over authenticity because they must. Today, you hold a different pen. You can write a different contract. Think of worth as light, not a score. You were not born on trial. A sentence was handed to you and you served it, mistaking compliance for character. The contrast is stark. Keep leasing value from people who pay only for performance, or own it as birthright and let relationships earn continued access. One path preserves the costume, the other returns you to your body. Which identity will shape your next decade? The apologizer or the self-loyal adult who can stay present? Maybe you're wondering, what if I'm exaggerating? What if everyone had it worse? That is scarcity speaking, the fear of disbelonging if your pain takes up space. Notice the identity you slip into when doubt appears. The explainer, the minimizer, the person who disqualifies themselves first so no one else has to. That identity kept you safer then. It does not have to command your future. We will build a different one, clear-spoken, grounded, anchored, not louder, truer, not harder, kinder to you. This video is for you if you monitored mood more than homework, if you felt like a mirror rather than a person, if praise felt like a test you could fail at any second, if telling the truth brought punishment, if your siblings' silence taught you where attention sat, if adulthood still feels like an audition where judges never look up, if small mistakes drag large verdicts behind them, if too sensitive became the cloak that kept you safe, if your body braces before your name is even called. We will separate your voice from the installed one. We will practice self-witnessing so the child who went unseen is finally seen by you. We will build boundaries that protect your peace without permission slips. We will anchor it all in simple, repeatable practices your body can trust. If the old deal was safety in exchange for self, the new deal is presence without bargains. By the end, you won't be chasing proof. You'll be living it, and the mirror will finally belong to you today. In families shaped around a narcissist's image, everything becomes stagecraft. The aim is presentation, not connection, polish, not truth. Everyone learns a quiet law: protect the picture. Reality is trimmed to flatter the star. If you grew up there, you weren't living with people. You were recruited into a production where love doubled as performance review, and lines were handed to you before you found your voice. Roles arrive like costumes. One child is praised into sunlight, one blamed into shadows, and one taught to disappear so the set looks tidy. We call them the golden child, the scapegoat, and the invisible one. But don't be fooled. These are jobs, not identities. Their purpose isn't fairness or growth. It is image maintenance. The roles keep the system running without the lead ever being questioned. The golden child learns that worth equals utility. Do well and the room warms. Show doubt and the air thins. Feelings are tolerated only when they enhance the narrative. They are rewarded for performance, not personhood, molded into proof that the family is fine. Under the applause, anxiety hums. If love is applause, silence is danger. Success becomes a leash, pulling them back to the stage at any cost off stage. The scapegoat's job is different. Absorb the heat that would otherwise land on the star. Honesty becomes insubordination, needs become accusations, and any boundary is framed as disloyalty. Attention arrives, but it isn't care, it's surveillance. Punishment teaches the lesson your feelings threaten the brand. Over time, the scapegoat confuses conflict with existence. I'm noticed only when there's trouble. Visibility begins to equal wrongness. The invisible one trades breath for peace. They keep the temperature down by keeping themselves small. The family praises their maturity, which is really self-erasure. Quiet, undemanding, low maintenance. They are rewarded for not needing, for not interrupting the plot. The price is steep. When authenticity means disruption, the safest. Identity is absence. These roles aren't random, they are structural. They distribute labor inside the illusion, so the narcissist's image stays spotless. When tension rises, the system triangulates. One sibling idealized, another criticized, the third mediating by minimizing their own truth. Rotation keeps everyone off balance. No one asks if the picture is honest. Everyone asks how to look better. Within it, the mechanics are consistent. Conditional love says, when you reflect well on me, I feel close. When you don't, I withdraw. It trains you to choose presentation over presence. Gaslighting edits memory. It wasn't that bad. You're too sensitive. Why make drama? With repetition, you doubt your senses and outsource reality to the most confident voice. By the time you can name it, the script has rewritten you as the problem. Triangulation keeps siblings from comparing notes. Affection is rationed competitively, so loyalty flows upward, never sideways. You're told what the other supposedly said, true or not, so you fight each other instead of the pattern. Enablers call this keeping the peace. In practice, it keeps truth from daylight. The parent stays centered while children orbit like moons. Intermittent reinforcement is the casino logic. Unpredictable approval that keeps you pulling the lever. A rare soft look, a surprise compliment, a holiday without explosions. These jackpots convince you the next pull could change everything. You fear missing the good day, the good mood, the good version of them. That fear makes you chase, overwork and over-explain. Hope becomes a leash disguised as optimism. Enabler dynamics do the rest. Silence presents as neutrality, peacemaking as maturity, minimizing as perspective. Let it go. Don't ruin dinner. You know how they are. The message lands. Harmony matters more than honesty. Each time you swallow truth to steady the room, the system pays you with brief calm. Calm feels like proof you did the right thing. Inside such weather, children perform a devastating conversion. They ask, if I were truly worthy, wouldn't I be safe and seen? Since I am not, I must be the problem. That inference welds utility to value. Because safety fluctuates with performance, you assume value does too. The conclusion feels responsible. Better to fix yourself than admit those you depend on won't change. Once installed, that belief becomes the system's most efficient enforcer. You start pre-editing feelings, apologizing for needs, grading yourself before anyone else can. You take on extra credit for love and accept detention for having a boundary. You measure worth by usefulness and call exhaustion devotion. The family doesn't have to police you. You do it for them. There is another interpretation, and it threatens the machine. Roles are functions, not fate. Approval is strategy, not proof. Calm that requires your erasure is not peace. Hold that frame and you stop auditioning. You recognize the production for what it is, and the spell begins to thin. Next, we'll track how these roles migrate into your inner voice and your nervous system, and how to reclaim both. You learn to narrate your life in a borrowed voice, and it still speaks when the room is quiet. That voice sounds like you, uses your vocabulary, even borrows your humor, but its verdicts are older than you. Psychologists call it an introject, the internalized critic that speaks with the authority of your caregivers while wearing your face. It doesn't ask, it declares. You miss a deadline, and it announces character, not circumstance. You feel anger, and it translates it as danger. Under that pressure, you built what Jung called a persona, a polished mask optimized for approval. The persona learns which versions of you win warmth and which invite weather. It performs value, competent, agreeable, tireless, charming. Meanwhile, the parts that complicated the picture, anger, grief, need, tenderness, were exiled into shadow, not because they were bad, but because they were expensive. When wholeness risked belonging, you did the math a child must do and purchased. Closeness with self-erasure. From this bargain grow complexes, emotionally charged patterns that hijack reactions before thought arrives. The formula becomes consistent. I made a mistake, therefore I am a mistake. A sigh in a meeting equals threat. A neutral face equals withdrawal. A delayed text equals abandonment. Each cue awakens an old courtroom where evidence is irrelevant and verdicts are inevitable. If your reactions feel larger than the moment is crowded. Your body keeps the minutes. Hypervigilance becomes an operating system. Shoulders slightly lifted, breath shallow, eyes scanning micro-expressions. You hear tone shifts like weather. The fawn response, people-pleasing as survival, arrives before you know you're scared. An automatic offering to keep the peace. Logic tries to negotiate, but shame doesn't speak logic. It speaks sensation, heat in the face, hollow in the gut, a pulse that edits memory. You cannot debate physiology into safety. You must teach it. Consider a simple moment. Your manager says, "This paragraph is strong. Tighten the last 2 sentences." They're smiling, polite, and yet something detonates. Your stomach drops. Fingers tingle, ears ring. You reread the email, searching for hidden knives. You open the document and stare, unable to think, grieving a career that did not end. Hours pass in a fog of repair and self-attack. Later you say it wasn't a big deal, while your body insists it was a catastrophe. That mismatch is not drama. It is history speaking through nerves. Identification with the aggressor explains why the critic sounds like leadership. As a child, you learned that proximity to the powerful meant safety, so you adopted their standards as your own and enforced them internally. Better to police yourself than invite correction. You rehearsed conversations, read rooms like tests, and pre-graded your performance. It looked like maturity, it was fear wearing a tie. Over time, the borrowed rules hardened into identity. The self as supervisor, the heart as employee on probation. Intermittent reinforcement sealed the loop. Every so often, approval arrived, unexpected, glowing, intoxicating. A good day, a proud of you, jackpot. Your nervous system coded the chase as hope. Maybe if you are careful enough, bright enough, agreeable enough, the warmth will stay. Maybe this time love won't have teeth. Each jackpot rewired the pursuit centers to endure longer stretches of cold. Resilience became tolerance for hunger, and you called it ambition. Why doesn't insight alone dissolve this? Because your nervous system believes it is preventing danger, not making a mistake. Shame is not an opinion. It is a posture, a full-body brace against imagined exile. Telling yourself to relax is like asking a smoke alarm to consider the evidence. Systems calm with repeated safety cues, slowed breath, softened gaze, grounded posture, and self-witnessing that separates behavior from being. I missed a deadline is a fact. I am a disappointment is the introject speaking. When you separate the two, your body receives new data. So what changes when you hear the difference? First, you notice the accent of the inner voice. It's speed, absolutism, contempt, and you name it as inherited. Second, you invite shadow back from exile. Anger becomes information. Grief becomes proof that something mattered. Need becomes a map to care. Third, you renegotiate with the persona, letting it become a tool rather than a cage. You can wear the mask on purpose without confusing it for your face, and you can take it off with people who have earned your trust. Then you experiment with new equations. Mistake to learning, not abandonment. Feedback to collaboration, not humiliation. Boundary to respect, not danger. Your body won't trust these lines immediately, it needs evidence. You provide it in small, repeatable ways. Pause to breathe before replying. Label sensations, and offer yourself the sentence you never heard. You are still worthy here. Over time, the alarm grows curious. Curiosity is the opposite of collapse, and gives you back seconds shame stole. You don't need anyone's confession to begin. You need a map you can use when your hands are shaking. Start by naming the installed voice, because nameless power is persuasive. Label it. Out loud, ideally. Maybe it's the auditor or the judge. Notice how it speaks in absolutes and forecasts doom. When you hear it say, "That's the auditor, not me." Out loud if you can. The goal isn't to destroy it. It once kept you safe. The goal is separation. Me here, installed content there. Then practice self-witnessing, the antidote to being unseen. After a trigger, write a 10-line scene report as a calm documentarian. 10 lines only. Truth, not drama. What was said, what I felt, what I did, what they did, what was imagined, what was fact, what my body did, what story the auditor told, what story I prefer, what I need next. This trains your mind to collect data. Your nervous system can trust and builds a counterfile against the old narrative of guilt. When accusations arrive, direct or implied, the witness steadies you long enough to choose. Boundaries are not punishments. They're accurate descriptions of what you will and won't do. You decide on contact based on impact, not obligation. If low contact protects your health, design it. Shorter calls, no crisis roles. If no contact becomes necessary, make it, because peace is an ethical duty to yourself. A simple decision tree helps. Is harm recurring? Are repairs consistent? Can I be safe and honest here? You'll need words for familiar traps. When someone says, "You're ungrateful," try, "I'm grateful for what was good and still allowed to protect myself." When they say, "Family is everything," answer, "Family matters most when it's safe." If they insist you're rewriting history, reply, "I'm telling the truth I couldn't tell then." Scripted lines aren't for winning, they're for keeping your nervous system in the present while old alarms ring. Presence, not persuasion, is the measure of success. Because healing isn't theory, it's practice in minutes. Reparenting happens through small, reliable touches. Several times a day, give yourself 90 seconds. Exhale longer than you inhale. Soften your gaze, feel your feet. Place a hand over your sternum and say one sentence of unconditional worth. Choose a line that fits. I am worthy while unfinished. Nothing to prove right now. My needs don't endanger love. Your body learns through repetition what your mind forgot it could believe. You may worry that leaving the old chase will cost you love. That is the scarcity contract speaking. Trade it for values-based self-approval, a currency that grows. Decide what you admire in yourself, independent of outcome. Honesty, craftsmanship, kindness, steadiness. Approve your alignment with those values. The result might be messy. The approval stands because it honors who you were. This is identity. Shifting in practice, moving from "am I enough yet" to "am I aligned right now?" Keep a worth ledger to rebalance attention. Each evening, list 3 choices that honored you. Left a text unread, ended a call when the tone turned, asked a friend for help. Add 3 times others reflected value back. Someone thanked you, sought your opinion, laughed freely with you. The ledger trains perception to notice evidence the auditor edits out and builds a memory library you can consult when shame tries to claim amnesia. Evidence, not hope, fuels trust. Create corrective experiences at human scale. Invite safe people into small moments where you risk being real. A messy kitchen when they visit. A vulnerable sentence sent without apology. A request before you're desperate. Let kindness land for 3 breaths. Your nervous system needs proof that connection survives authenticity. Each intact moment is a stitch in stronger fabric, not a miracle, a demonstration that the world can hold you without a mask. Reality, repeated, outruns memory. Along the way, clear the myths that keep you waiting. Closure is not their confession. It is your clarity and your boundary. Forgiveness is not access. It is releasing the fantasy of a better past while protecting your future. Healing is not amnesia. It is remembering without relocating. Myths make you wait at locked doors. Truth hands you a key and asks where to live. You are not betraying anyone by leaving rooms that require your erasure as rent. Will you feel guilt when you first protect yourself? Almost certainly. Guilt is the shadow of new freedom when you were trained for compliance. Treat it like weather and keep walking. When the auditor predicts exile, ask, is this a memory or the moment? Then check your body, breathe deeper, lengthen your spine, and name one concrete choice you will make next. Action shrinks prophecy. Step by step, you retire from performing worth and begin inhabiting it. Not louder, just truer. Not perfect, just free. You've done the unglamorous work of deprogramming, so let's turn toward who you are without the costume. Start here. Worth is not earned. Worth is the permission you arrived with. If the old contract said perform first, exist second, the new one reverses the order. You exist, therefore you qualify. From that ground you choose how to live, what you protect, create, and refuse, because identity is a practice enacted when no one is clapping. Ask yourself 3 clarifying questions. What will I protect, no matter who disapproves? What will I create, even if it is imperfect? What will I refuse, even if it costs proximity? Protection might look like sleep, therapy, financial boundaries, and creative time no one gets to borrow. Creation might be art, service, scholarship, a business, built without adrenaline or parenting that ends what hurt you. Refusal is the backbone. No more auditions for love, no more rooms that require your erasure as rent. To anchor this, try a simple Jung-flavored pathway for individuation. Begin with shadow dialogue. Picture the parts that were exiled. Anger, that knew when a line was crossed. Grief that honored loss, tenderness that wanted closeness, desire that asked to be met. Invite one at a time to speak on paper. Ask, what are you protecting? What do you need? How long have you carried this alone? Answer as your present self, not with management, but with welcome. Integration is not a courtroom, it is a reunion. When the shadow is heard, it stops knocking through symptoms and starts collaborating with your values. Next, design small acts of self-loyalty. Keep them tiny and daily so your nervous system can believe them. Drink water before you open your inbox. End conversations when your body says stop. Say yes more slowly so the yes can mean something. Replace apology openers with accurate language. I have capacity for this, not that. Small repeated actions become identity. Each one says, I am on my side when no one is watching. Then curate relationships with a new rule. No performance. Clauses. Choose people who recognize you without the costume, who can hold both your competence and your tears. Notice who gets curious instead of defensive when you set a boundary. Notice who celebrates your rest as much as your output. That choice may shrink the guest list, and that is not a failure. It is a filter. Here is the contrast that changes everything. In the old story, you manage perception to earn access. In the new one, you manage alignment to offer presence. In the old story, love was scarce and you competed with ghosts. In the new one, your values generate steadiness and you invite companions, not judges. Feel the shift, moving from auditioning to belonging, from crisis expert to steward of peace, from apologizer to author. You might worry, what if I lose people when I stop performing? Some will step back because your clarity breaks the spell. Let them. Visibility sometimes costs proximity, and that cost is liberation, not loss. The space created becomes oxygen for relationships that meet you as you are. It is better to be lonely for a season than invisible for a lifetime. The life you miss by staying small is the only one shaped to fit you. Practice a daily check-in that keeps the compass true. Morning. One sentence of inherent worth. I do not have to earn my place today. Midday. One act of self-loyalty chosen on purpose. Evening. One line for a values ledger. How did I protect, create, and refuse in ways that honored me? This is not productivity. It is devotion. Put evidence under the new story until the old one retires. As you live this way, the voice inside changes texture. The introject grows quieter because your actions provide different proof. You become the adult who can stand next to your younger self and say, I am here now and I will not trade you for belonging. That sentence is the hinge. You protect what deserved protection. You create what fear postponed, and you refuse what once fed on your doubt. Pieces click into place not because the past vanishes, but because you stop leaving yourself to chase it. So let's mark the moment with words your body can memorize. I am not on trial. My worth is not a receipt. My boundaries are accurate, not aggressive. I will be loyal to the life that fits me. If those lines feel too strong, try them and let your breath catch up. And if you want to seal it publicly, write this in the comments so the ritual meets witness. I reclaim my worth. That is not a slogan. It is a practice repeated until it becomes your nature and your future begins to look like you. Even if some doors close, the ones that open will actually fit you.